Okay, so I have to make some raised panel doors for the cabinet that I cut down. The doors that originally came with the cabinet for the original size were made in a shop with a CNC machine router it was just one piece of MDF, and the router made the profile all around it, and they laminated melamine over it. So what I'm going to do to recreate those doors is, because I don't have that same kind of a setup that the shop does, I'm going to use cope and stick rail and stile bits. We're going to have the stiles and rails are going to be made out of poplar, and since it's a painted project, we're going to use 3/4 inch MDF for the raised panel center, and that's very stable. It won't move, no expansion, no contraction. So what I'm going to do is show you how to use these cope and stick bits. So I'm going to move you closer into the router so you can see what I'm doing. So the bit that has the bearing in the center, that's how you know that's for the rails to cope the ends, because that's going to give you that tongue that you need to fit into the slot that's created for the panel. So on the other router bit, which this is the sticking bit, this is for the stiles. This runs down the length of the stile, and this creates the slot where the raised panel is going to slip into. That fits everything. So now I like to cut the cope first on the rails, because that helps me to line everything up later with the other bit for the stiles. So what I've done is I've marked down a little tick mark about 1/8 of an inch down on the workpiece. So now what I want to do is put that up against the router bit, and what I'm going to do is raise or lower the router bit. In this case, I have to raise the bit so that it's just hitting that 1/8 of an inch line that I made. And that's going to create an 1/8 of an inch shoulder, and that's what I want, just an 1/8 of an inch shoulder. So as soon as I see where that bit is exactly level with my tick mark, I'm going to lock it in place. Now obviously when you do this, you want to have some scrap stock to test first. The way I set up the fence is I take a straight edge, so it's just a steel rule, and I'm going to put it up against that bearing. See how it's rolling on that bearing now? Now I'll move the fence forward. The rule is hitting both sides of the fence and just kissing that bearing. Then what I'll do is make sure I lock it in place. Okay, I put this here to help me with the dust collection, because this does make a difference. So this is the rail, and this is going to be my scrap block and my backer block, and they're going to go together like this, and we're going to run the piece right across the fence, and we're going to make that cope. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. Nice, clean cut. Okay, now I'm going to take steel rule and see if I hit my tick mark. And we are just at 1/8 of an inch. That's exactly where I want to be, right there at 1/8 of an inch. So now that I know I have that exactly where I need it to be, I'm going to go ahead and cut all the pieces of my rails at the same time. Before I cut all of the rails, what I want to mention is mark the face of the board that you want facing out, because that has to go down to the table. So this way you don't get confused. So best face is going to go down. So mark it with an F for face. And what you'll do is you're going to run the first one through. As you run it through, you make your cope. Don't flip it over this way. You're going to take it and just go end for end without removing the face from the table. That's how you won't get confused. Because if you make this cut and then you flip it over this way like some people do, now you're going to have the cope going in the opposite face, and it's never going to work. Okay, I've now removed the bit that copes the rail, and we're going to put the bit that is going to make the profile on our stiles. Now, one thing I gotta mention also is this router bit is going to serve two functions. It's going to give us the profile for the inside molding look of the door, it's also going to route the groove that's going to accept the panel. Now with the rails, they're going to get cut twice. You cut them once with this to make the cope, and then you also have to run them through here. So I'm going to show you now how to set this up to match up to this bit. Okay, so now I'm going to take my test piece that I used to cut the cope for the rails, and I'm going to put that face down. And I'm going to line this bit up to be completely flush with the top of the tongue. And I can see right now it's a little bit too high. So what I'm going to do is keep it in place. And I'm going to unlock the router. And I'm going to just drop it down. Once it looks flush, I'm going to feel it. That's feeling perfect, right about there. And now we're going to set the fence the same way we did for the coping bit. We're going to pull the fence forward and use a straight edge to line the fence up to kiss the bearing. This is the tongue that goes into that groove there. And then this is the profile piece that's going to fit over this profile. Now, putting them together like this, you can see they're just a little proud, but you see how the joint is open there? It's not closing all the way. You look in here, this has to be raised just a tiny bit, like maybe 1/1000 or 2 of an inch. So I'm going to raise that bit, and I'm going to check my fence alignment again, and then we're going to run another test cut on the opposite side and refit it there and make sure the joint should close like this. Should close perfect like that. That's what we want. Okay, so I raised the router bit a little bit and I did another test cut, and now you can see that is a much tighter joint. So that's what we want. Now we can run our stiles through. We know we have the bit set up right. Then we could run the rails through and fit everything together, and then we could start to work on our raised panel. So that you can see it. You can see how tight the seams are. Little fuzzies here are going to be sanded off. But now I'm going to take my ruler and measure the inside of the grooves. And this is where this kind of ruler really comes in handy. So we put it in there and take my extension piece and bring it all the way across. I don't want the panel to bottom out. I want there to be a little bit of play. So whatever I have in there, when I put it up tight, I'm going to minus a 1/16 of an inch. Okay? 17 7/8. So I'm going to go 17 13/16. Do the same thing here. You always want to measure at the corners. Never measure at the center, because if there's any bowing in the center, it's going to give you a false reading. 14 11/16. I'm going to go 14 5/8. We need to install the raised panel bit. This is a huge bit. We're going to have to slow the router down a lot for this bit. Okay guys, well, I'm pretty sure the client's going to be happy with this. So here's a close-up of it. The raised panel. Got a nice profile on both sides, in and outside of the door. The back is a standard shaker style like the original. Pretty nice. And like I said before, this is a painted project going on a melamine cabinet. Otherwise, I would have used solid wood in the middle. But when I paint it, I am going to seal it first, and then I'm going to use a oil-based primer. And then once that dries, 24 hours later, then I'm going to spray it with an acrylic. And then we're going to cover that with 3 coats of finish. All right, guys, so I'm not going to do that in this video. I just wanted to show you guys how to make a raised panel door with the cope and stick router bits. You can also do this on a table saw. You just won't get that nice rounded profile on the raised panel. I'm sure eventually down the road I'll do a video on making a raised panel on the table saw. It's much easier and much quicker. All right, guys, so that's it. Make sure you subscribe. Hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure you hit the picture of a notification bell there, and that'll notify you every time I upload a video. All right, guys, I'll see you next time in my shop.